the border, but how do you break up with your friend? I know there's no use to confront her, but how do you say this is the end? I'm through being taken for granted. I'm the one you call when nobody's home. Being with you means just disappointments. I'm the last escape, so I've been told. Don't bring that bomber to my door again, my friend. You know that you've been crying wolf too many times before this time. It means just disappointments. I'm the last escape, so I've been told. Don't bring that bomber to my door again, my friend. You know that you've been crying wolf too many times before this time. I know it. Been there, I've done that. Those words are just sand in my head. So talk if you like, but words will be words till you bring them to life. So talk if you like, but words will be words till you bring them to life. Words will be words till you bring them to life. Words will be words till you bring them to life.
Welcome to the
Till you
show.
bring them to life.
Sorry about that little audio blip there. I don't know what that was. That is Talk 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 by St. Michael featuring Anya Gold. So I apologize for that little audio blip there. It skipped or something. I don't know what that was. Welcome to Let's Catch Up with Mike. I am your host, Mike Vatter. This is essentially episode 1, actually episode 2. Well, technically episode 1 of the new show, Let's Catch Up with Mike. Last episode, I was solo, and moving forward, I will be solo. So it's technically my, I think, 10th episode of this show, but the first episode of the officially new format of the show, which is the solo host. I would like to thank my former co-host for helping me get the show started. He was a great co-host. I really enjoyed working with him, and I chose him as my co-host because we had such a great chemistry and a great banter, and I'm sure you guys enjoyed seeing the two of us on the show together. But things sometimes don't work out, and that's just the way things are. But I wish him all the best. He was a great co-host, and I really, really enjoyed working with him. And I hope to work with him again in the future. But things happen, life gets in the way, and moving forward with the new format. So single host format from now on. I will be having some guest hosts in the future, and we'll continue having wonderful guests that will be joining me in this new format. But and I will be announcing some new guests coming up. Lots of guests. The format of the show, as far as helping people and promoting their books and their shows and their albums and their projects, is not ever going to change. This show started out as and will continue to start out as something that is meant to be fun. I don't plan on making any money off this show. That was never my goal. And I don't plan on this show ever being monetized. I do have sponsors, and I would like to welcome my sponsors. They are in-kind sponsors. They are not sponsors that I make any money off of. And if those sponsors make money off of this show, that's great. Good for them, because a lot of the sponsors are nonprofits and small businesses, and I'm happy to promote them on the show. And if they can promote me in this show to help make the show bigger, that's awesome. But I don't make any money off this show, and I don't plan to ever make any money off this show. And that's just how it's going to be moving forward. This show is meant to be fun for me. It's something I started as a Facebook Live thing during quarantine. And, I was doing baking, I was doing painting, I was doing lots of things on my Facebook Live channel that not under this official, title of Let's Catch Up or anything like that. It was just something I did for fun. things I did with my husband, crafts and baking and things like that under quarantine to just kind of pass the time. And you guys really rallied behind us and helped us grow an audience. So thank you for transitioning that audience over here to the Facebook page and my YouTube channel. So thank you for that, and I appreciate it. And if I can help these nonprofits and my guests, grow their businesses and make money off of what I can do to promote them in any way, I hope to do that. So full disclosure, my two new sponsors are MDM Consulting, which is my business, which is a business that I also do not make any money off of. It is a consulting business that I do on the side. It is a business that I use to promote small businesses. It's a business that I say business in the loosest term because I don't make any money off of that business. It is a business that I use to freely promote myself and my brand, and I use it to promote other small businesses, and I give marketing advice and marketing and consulting to nonprofits and small businesses in the Jacksonville area and beyond. So that's what I do with my consulting firm, for lack of a better term. It's a one-man operation, always has been. And that does help me, promote who I am and what I do. I make money. I have a full-time job. I make money in other ways. And the Safe Resource Center is a nonprofit that I work with and have for years. I helped found. It is a nonprofit. No one on the board or anyone associated with the Safe Resource Center makes any money. We raise money for other causes. So those are my two in-kind sponsors that have been added. We have other in-kind sponsors for the show here. And I've mentioned them in past episodes, and if I try to mention them all now, I'm going to forget somebody, so I'm not going to. Their links are on the Facebook page, as you've seen in past episodes. So that being said, moving forward, welcome to the new show. Let's catch up with Mike, and let's dig right in. And I have tried to do a new background here. Let's see if I can do this without too many issues. So the first thing I want to talk about is a new documentary. I shared the link to it on the show page a few days ago, and I will share it again because it needs to be shared widely, and I want everyone to watch this documentary. Nasrin is an amazing documentary. It is it's a heart-wrenching story, and I don't want to give too much away because it's a story you guys need to watch. She is a civil rights lawyer in the Middle East, and she's from Iran. She's worked in multiple countries. She has been a civil rights activist her entire life, but she is now a civil rights lawyer. This documentary is narrated by Emmy, Golden Globe, and Oscar nominee and Oscar winner Olivia Colman from The Crown. She played Queen Elizabeth in the most recent last two seasons of The Crown, and she's amazing. Olivia Colman's amazing. She narrates this documentary, and it's filled with interviews with Ann Curry and interviews from other journalists that you'll recognize. Ann Curry, the most prominent interviewer in the documentary, at least that that comes to mind. But Nasrin, or I think it's actually pronounced Nasrin, she's a civil rights attorney in Iran, most prominently, I should say, in Iran. She fights for women's rights, equality all around, but especially women's rights. And she is getting death threats, and she's getting she's had attempts on her life, because she's trying to help people. She's trying to help women and children in an area of the world that women and children are really not allowed to have rights. And what's so great about her story is, and it's so almost odd about her story, is she's even getting death threats from the very women that she's trying to help, not the individual women she's trying to help, but women in general. And it's almost like what I would call like a Stockholm syndrome. You know, it's kind of like you think of these in our country, in the United States, you think of, you know, women who support Donald Trump, women who support Ted Cruz, and you think, how can they support these politicians who are fighting against them? You know, politicians who fight for the very thing that they, you know, that would hurt them the most. I'm trying to stop that blip in the left-hand corner there. I don't know that I can. It's my lighting, so you'll have to put up with it until the next slide. But you know, it's so ingrained in their culture that women can't have rights, that women you know, are told their entire lives they can't have rights, so they I guess feel that they can't, or they're told by the men in their lives and men in their worlds that they can't have rights, so they fight almost against themselves. So it's a very powerful documentary, and it's being nominated for a bunch of awards and a bunch of award shows. I highly recommend it. I don't want to give too much away because it's a true story. Obviously, you can Google her, but the documentary itself is so well done, and it's just amazing. It's worth watching. But it reminded me, it brought to mind something that's happening here in my home state of Florida, which, if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. Please pay attention. This bag of fun. Our governor, Ron DeSantis, who is seen here with super spreader Donald Trump. He is a Trump Jr. Donald Trump is, you know, former President Donald Trump, the only president in U.S. history to be impeached twice, and the only president in U.S. history to incite a riot to overthrow the U.S. government while he was in office, to overturn the election results for an election that he lost by over 7 million votes, because, you know, of course, it wants everyone to believe that he won the election that he clearly lost in a landslide. Ron DeSantis, who is, you know, usually seen, well, not seen in pictures, but can often be found with his lips permanently attached to Donald Trump's butt. Ron DeSantis is trying to pass a bill here in Florida that would essentially prevent people from gathering in crowds to protest anything. So I've posted that link as well in the show, on the show page. It is a bill that he says is to stop rioting, which I'm sure that can be parsed out and people can have their opinions one way or the other. I've signed this petition to stop this bill from passing, because it's ridiculous. What it essentially will do is, because he doesn't define in the bill what a riot is versus a protest versus a gathering that is meant to incite. You know, he doesn't explain what it is he actually wants to accomplish with this. So if you look at the bill the way it's written, he's saying that he wants to stop crowds from gathering for political reasons. Okay, great. What about the crowds that want to gather to support you, Governor? What about the crowds that want to gather? Let's say you lose your next election or re-election, and crowds want to gather to say, you know, hey, we don't agree with this election or with the results. So you don't want crowds to come out and support you? Okay, so you're shooting yourself in the foot, essentially. Okay, well, let's pretend that that's not an issue for you. How about if crowds want to gather and, you know, peacefully protest, but there's a couple of bad actors in the crowd, like Black Lives Matter. So, which is probably your impetus for this bill, because, you know, as you famously did in your race for governor, you called your opponent a monkey, your Black opponent a monkey. So clearly you have some racial issues. That's fine. Then you picked a Latino running mate, you know, to show that you're not a racist, which was a little heavy-handed by most accounts. So So you're only racist when it comes to your Black Democratic opponent, but not when it comes to your Latino running mate. Got it. So let's pretend that none of that's an issue, but so let's just focus on the Black Lives Matter issue. Here in Jacksonville, we had some Black Lives Matter protests, which I was proudly a part of. And the Black Lives Matter protesters were peaceful, very peaceful. And there were a couple of bad actors who came from other places, who were not from Jacksonville, who were not part of the Black Lives Matter movement, who were coming into town intent on causing problems, who did cause issues as far as breaking glass and destroying public property, and were essentially what you would consider to be rioters. Okay, so there's a fine line between protesting and rioting. I'll give you that. Boston Tea Party was a protest that became a riot. Stonewall was a protest that became a riot. Not all riots are bad. Some riots give us our freedoms. All protests are not bad, obviously. Most protests are good. Most protests, have founded this country, or most of this country has been founded on protests. Let me put it that way. Riots are not always a bad thing, but people like you have an issue with rioting unless white people are doing it for a cause you and other Republicans and conservatives believe in, like storming the Capitol on January 6th, like celebrating the win of your favorite team, or being angry over the loss of your favorite team. Because, white people riot when their team loses the Super Bowl, or when their team loses the Stanley Cup, or when their team loses the World Series. And for some reason, white people riot when their team wins those same games, which never really made sense to me. I'm happy my team won, so I'm going to burn down a Target. That doesn't make sense to me. But that usually gets dismissed as people getting overzealous and celebrating. But when people of color do it, it's immediately a riot, and it's immediately a terrorist act, and it's immediately a bad thing. So let's say this bill passes. Where do you draw the line on what's considered a good riot and what's considered a bad riot? Or what's considered a good gathering and what's considered a bad gathering? So it's a bad bill all around, and it should not pass. So I guarantee that you're going to get some pushback on this. So if you are so inclined, if you're a watcher of this show, please sign this bill. Do not let it, or sign this petition to stop this bill from passing. It's ridiculous. A former guest on the show, and hopefully a future guest on the show, Philip Baber, went to Tallahassee to discuss this, and was met with extreme opposition. And you've got to be a pretty shitty gathering of people to boo and scream at a man of God, a man of the cloth, who is there to speak on behalf of civil rights, and you're, it's whatever. When the conservatives want to invoke the name of God, for their cause, it's okay. But when they how did I say it the other day to my mom? I was talking to my mom on the phone, and I said, it's great when Pat Robertson wants to run for office, or Mike Huckabee wants to run for office. Then Republicans don't have a problem with mixing church and state. But when Philip Warnock wants to run for office, or when Martin Luther King Jr. gets political, then mixing church and state's a bad thing. That's kind of my point. When faith leaders all around the world, all around the country, all around the state say, wait a minute, this bill is bad. Republicans and conservatives usually have an issue with it. So yeah, that's kind of my point on that. Martha Stewart. You gotta love Martha Stewart. Pictured here enjoying the high life. Martha Stewart famously has been working with Snoop Dogg for the last few years, since she finished her time in federal prison for basically doing what what white male CEOs have been doing for centuries. Martha Stewart has been living her best life ever since finishing that sentence at Camp Cupcake. And I love her for it. I live for Martha Stewart. I always have. I loved her before, and I love her now even more. Seen there wearing a necklace made of edibles, CBD gummies, and marijuana candies are Martha Stewart's new obsession, and I'm obsessed with Martha Stewart. So Martha Stewart started last year with a Canadian company making pot edibles, basically for human consumption. Those are not legal in most parts of the United States, but she has developed CBD, which is a derivative of marijuana, which does not get you high. It has no THC in it, but it is very therapeutic for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. So CBD gummies and CBD edibles are available through Martha Stewart's website here in the United States. And she, I love that picture. She is wearing a necklace made of CBD gummies. Those may not be CBD gummies. They may be full potency based on the picture. But she and Snoop Dogg developed the full strength THC pot gummies for the company in Canada. And they brought that to the United States in the form of CBD for human consumption last year. And now she is expanding her products to pets. She's made CBD candies for dogs and cats, primarily dogs, because as you know, dogs will pretty much eat anything. Cats are a little more finicky, as Morris will tell you. The Nine Lives spokes cat has been famously finicky for years. But Martha Stewart has, I can't stop laughing at that picture. Martha Stewart reminds me of my mom. I mean, she's in the kitchen with, oven that's on baking, cheesecake and pecan pie. And to see her in that pose is just wonderful. I love that they've chosen this as the PR picture for this product. But Martha Stewart eating pot gummies makes me laugh so hard. But Martha Stewart is releasing a line of edibles for your dog. So you and your dog can enjoy the high life together, thanks to Martha Stewart. And they're available on her website. And if you have access to the Canadian version of, I have the giggles now, of the full full potency versions, you might want to check those out. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is making me laugh so hard. I love Martha Stewart, and this is just the best. Oh my goodness. Martha Stewart, I love you so much. I wish I could get you on my show. I wish I could get you on the phone. I bet you're all right to talk to you. So I have a little confession. I've kind of had a woman crush on Martha Stewart since she dated Anthony Hopkins very, very briefly. I think it was in the early 90s or late 80s. Just the idea of Martha Stewart and Hannibal Lecter having a romance was my favorite thing in the whole world. I know they were both recently divorced, and it's probably not even true. It's probably a tabloid thing, but I loved the idea of them dating. She talked about it on an appearance on David Letterman's show at the time. And I just thought it was hilarious. I'd never seen Martha Stewart crack a joke, and she would not let up on David Letterman about this because he brought it up, and you can probably find it on YouTube. She would not let up on this, but it was just the idea of Martha Stewart and Hannibal Lecter. I had so many weird dreams about them doing a cooking show together. It would just be hilarious. But I love Martha Stewart. She's just the bitch that won't quit, and she's just awesome. I love everything about her. So Martha Stewart, CBD and THC gummies, depending on where you live, whether it's in Canada or the US. But I highly recommend... Sorry, I highly recommend checking them out. I swear I'm not on them right now, but I'm going to look for them because... you know what, CBD's done wonders for me, and I know CBD doesn't get you high. I'm not endorsing that for anybody, but if it works for you, check it out, because You know what? We could all use a little good news right now. And that picture of Martha Stewart is the best. It's making me laugh more than it should. This is going to be a short episode today because I have lots of stuff to do on this lovely Sunday. I've got to fix that bleed over there. That is making me crazy. Crazier than usual, as they say. So anyway, check out check out the links in the show as usual. Send me some messages if you want to be on the show. If you've got anything you want to promote, send me your nudes. That means obviously send me your noodles, because I'm always up for some great recipes. Send me your pictures and your videos and your stories if you want me to feature them on the show. If you have any products you want to promote, I'd love to have you on the show as a guest. But reach out to me, send me an email, send me a message through the Facebook channel, send me a text if you have my personal information. I'd love to hear from you. This has been Let's Catch Up with Mike. I promise a longer episode next time. I've got a few great guests coming up. We've got some of the people from the Youth Action Committee with PFLAG Jacksonville. I've got Love Reigns coming up to talk about her new book, her new single, her new LP. I'd love to have Mark Mervins back on. I know he and I have been working on that. And he had a great book out last year that we talked about on a previous episode. And I've got a few other people too. I've got some people from Action Against Guns. I've got a few people from gosh, I'm going to forget if I try to do it by memory. So I've got a few great advocates coming up that I want to talk to that are on my list. Yeah, and I've got a great painter. He hasn't committed yet, so I'm not going to say his name, but I will say I've got a tattoo on my body of a piece that he painted. So I'm excited about that one, and I will show it off if he commits to a date and gets on the show. So anyway, love you guys. Stay healthy, stay happy, enjoy the high life, and I will see you next time. Thanks for checking out the show. Love ya, mean it. Ooh, there you are. Stay safe.